Oh, how exciting it is with the Russo brothers returning to Netflix because Netflix continues making these tremendous movies. This time we've got the adaptation of the graphic novel, The Electric State. Let's dive in. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Movie Diet. Today we're diving into the new Netflix and Russo brothers film, The Electric State. Before we do dive in, please not forget to subscribe to the Movie Dive. I'm trying to get this little channel to 1,000 subscribers, and if I do, I'll be giving away a free $150 gift card to a random subscriber. And if you comment down below, you have a higher chance of winning that. I've never heard of the graphic novel, The Electric State. Apparently, it came out in 2018. I'm going to put up a few graphics from that graphic novel here. The story's been told many times before of technology taking over humans' minds and us succumbing to this technology. And this graphic novel does a pretty good job of showing a deep look into a girl whose brother passed away. They were really close with each other, and he was such a genius that he got transferred over into a robot, and a bunch of different stuff goes on. So adapting that into a movie might be a really cool idea. Maybe something like Blade Runner, something that's mysterious and dark and really intrigues the audience. Of course, Netflix takes this movie and decides to put a bunch of A-list actors in it that look like they don't even want to be there, and decide to make a big bombastic film with a bunch of comedy that is outdated and no longer funny, or even maybe was never funny in the first place. So we can go down the list of all the actors in this movie. Of course, Millie Bobbie Brown is the lead. We got Chris Pratt, who's playing Star-Lord in this movie with a bad wig on. We got Stanley Tucci, who plays the villain in this movie. Anthony Mackie is one of the voices. Jenny Slate plays a robot. Woody Harrelson plays Mr. Peanut. And when I first started this movie and I saw that Mr. Peanut was the world leader, I was just baffled and confused what was even going on screen. And as the movie keeps going on, it just gets more baffling and worse and worse. Coleman Domingo even shows up for about 5 seconds in the movie out of nowhere for I don't know why. And you can tell he probably just recorded himself on Zoom at home and they just CGI'd him into the movie. Of course, everyone is talking about how this movie cost $320 million to make. Well, I'm here to tell you one thing. Netflix, I'm pretty sure, knows what they're doing. Of course, that is not a good thing because Netflix expects you to see these actors and put this movie on, even if it's something you just put on in the background. If you're watching this review, you most likely are really into movies, but there's a lot of people out there that are just going to throw something on Netflix, and when they see these names, that's exactly what they're going to do, and that boosts Netflix numbers, and that is just their plan. They don't really give a shit about making a movie that is actually good. Russo brothers, of course, known most for their Marvel films. You know, they made Winter Soldier, Infinity War, Endgame. You know, they're comic book movies, but they're still peak action movies, especially Winter Soldier. So when you watch a movie like this, you just wonder to yourself, did everyone that was involved know that it was an overly budgeted film and decide to half-ass it because it wasn't going to matter? As that probably starts with the top down, with the executives of Netflix, all the way to these actors that look like they don't really care to be on screen, and they're just all phoning it in. Millie Bobbie Brown goes through a long journey in this film, and of course her makeup stays perfectly intact and her hair looks like it was done by a hairdresser the entire movie. She has some pretty emotional scenes she has to get through, but of course when you're watching it, you feel absolutely nothing with that. I do want to give a little bit of positive to this movie, and I think it does look good in certain spots. The cinematographer, he was the only one who I don't think who was half-assing it. There was definitely shots in this movie I was like, oh, that's pretty to look at. But even when the CGI is at its best, you still can't get out of your head that you're watching Mr. Peanut as a robot fighting other androids, and you're just thinking, what the hell is the point of this? If they made it more stylistic in the sense of the graphic novel and made it a bit more creepy, it would make sense. But when you have Woody Harrelson making stupid ass jokes as Mr. Peanut, then it's just like, what are we doing here? Of course, like I said, Chris Pratt before, just doing basically the whole Star-Lord thing with the wig on. He even has a moment in this movie where he's like, oh, I am not gonna do that. And then you think in your head, it's gonna cut to a scene where he's actually doing it. And that's exactly what happens. That's a joke that they've done in Marvel movies in all of the 2010s. It's gotten extremely old at least 5 years ago, but they're still doing it in this movie. This movie has nothing to do with Marvel. Well, it kind of doesn't. But they have a lot banking on Doomsday and Secret Wars, and the Russo brothers directing those movies. Hopefully this isn't a precursor to what those are going to be, because essentially this is kind of the style of Ready Player One, except just a lot worse. For a story that's been told many times before, it is unique when you do it in a graphic novel in a creepy way, and you can do it in your own style. But when you start to mainstream that like this movie does, then it's just something you've seen a million times before, except a lot worse. There's a lot of covers of music in this movie that just annoys the living hell out of you. The problem about bitching about this kind of movie is that Netflix is still going to make them because people like me are going to watch them. The only way that they can stop making these is if maybe we just stop watching them in entirety, but seems like it's a tough thing to happen. So it's definitely a predicament that we're all in as audience members. But the best thing I can do for this case is just bash on a movie like this, because yes, it is not good. That money could go to so many things. Of course, with $320 million, you could make 32 $10 million films that are 30 times as good as this film. But what the hell do I know? I do not work at Netflix. So in the end, The Electric State, it's disrespectful to its source material, but you know, Netflix gonna Netflix. I'm gonna go ahead and give this movie a 28 out of 100. The only reason it gets that high is because the cinematography was decent. However, that is still a pretty terrible score, and it'll definitely be on the bottom list of films I see in 2025. Have you guys seen The Electric State? Did you get any redemption out of it? You guys let me know in the comments, and we will see you next time on The Movie Dive.